Hi, everyone. How's everyone doing? Thank you guys so much for participating in another episode of Chanel's Reality. Hope you guys are having a happy Saturday. Listen, there's been a lot going on in these YouTube streets, okay? Um, so I wanted to come on here because listen, I have this whole Kenya Moore situation has me listen. I don't even know what to think. I know I've been listening to some of my content creators out here, and listen, everybody has an opinion. I know that my opinion of Kenya isn't great. I'm biased, but I'm biased for a good reason. I mean, Kenya is she's a bully. If we want to just call a thing, we're not gonna call a spade because that's very rooted in racism. So let's not do that. But we're gonna call a thing. And today the thing is Kenya is a bully. I mean, just stop me when I'm wrong about something. This is par for the course with Kenya. So anyways, we're going to get into it. Kenya is a Real Housewife. She is a cast member. For those that may not know, she's a cast member on the Real Housewives of Atlanta. She's been on there since season 5, and then I think it may be season 8 or 9. I don't remember what season it was that she had gotten married to Mark Daly. And that didn't work out, Kenya. But Kenya, the reason I bring up Mark Daly is because I feel like he bullied Kenya. He embarrassed her. He humiliated her in front of the world. And because I'm a person, I'm a human being, I can have empathy, even if I don't like you. I can have empathy for your situation. And her situation was dreadful, as Mr. Dwight, Mr. Dwight would say. It's how dreadful, honey. So, but the other part to that was, hey, Miss Curves. It's going well. Happy that you were able to join. I wanted to come on here.
Happy Juneteenth.
Huh?
I said happy Juneteenth.
You don't eat it until 15? Oh, I don't know. I thought it was
they're out here in California. We're celebrating it today because it's during the week. You know, it's on the 19th.
Oh! I see what you're saying. I got you. I have my little Juneteenth thing right on my little door in my bedroom. Sure do. Mm-hmm.
Right on. Right on.
Back, huh? I'm sorry. What did you say?
Oh, I was just saying, right on the Juneteenth memorabilia.
Now that I think about it, I feel away because listen, you could bury me at Dior, Chanel, and Hobby Lobby, but my issue with Hobby Lobby is the Juneteenth thing is only like maybe 12 inches. All of my like, July 4th stuff, big. Look at the little something. Oh, you can't see it right now, but I have a whole tower thing that you put like in your little window that says "Happy Summer." It's all big. Why my Juneteenth stuff? I'm gonna go on there now that I think about it. I might go on Twitter and tell them something. But no, so we're gonna talk a little bit about Kenya Moore because I've been listening. I listened to you yesterday and Mims and some of the people on his platform on his channel, and I got maybe the last 10 minutes of it. So I was like, okay, this is interesting. I would love to get your perspective on it. But just for the people out there in the zeitgeist that may not know, Kenya Moore, like I was saying earlier, she is a reality TV star. She stars on The Real Housewives of Atlanta. She's been there, I want to say, since like season 5. And then she got fired for, I think, getting married off the show. I believe that was the reason. But, you know, Bravo loves to tell people, you just left for whatever reason. But I think Kenya's the only one where they actually was like, no, you fired, I think. So, but in my opinion, Kenya is a bully. She always says, don't come for me unless I send for you, but she's always coming for people. And this is just my opinion of Kenya. And she's done some things over the years that I've mentioned before where she takes out a pow that's the size of my vehicle for something that she could have used something that's the size of my brush. And I used Tanya I don't know if you watched that season with Tanya, where Kenya called Tanya and was like, here's my wig. Can you take it home? I left it in Canada by accident. And then Tanya showed everybody at a spa, and Kenya basically brought the cookie lady to embarrass Tanya in front of the world. And I'm like, girl. And then the following season is when her and Mark, he embarrassed her. So that's an example to me. You call someone to see you next Tuesday over hair, and you say to the world and to her, really at the time, you're coming for my business, and that's how I feed my child, and I'm not going to let you do this. And then you call her, see you next Tuesday, and you bring some lady to try to humiliate her in front of the world over a wig, as if the viewing audience has no clue that you wear a wig. So it's an example of, why are you doing that? Why are you trying to, it's overkill, right? So I say that to give some people perspective, because not everybody knows Kenya Moore, even though she thinks everyone knows her. I didn't know her until she came on the Real Housewives of Atlanta, if I'm being clear. But I wanted to come on here today because, like I said, I've been hearing other content creators, people that are just stands for Kenya, period, point blank. They like, we don't care, we don't care, we don't care, we don't care. And I think this is a situation where you should care. One, because based on what I've been reading, it's a crime. So I just wanted to review some things. Like, I have a federal kind of an explanation of what revenge P is, and some state law stuff. So I'm going to just read this real quick. It says, the state of the law, nearly 50 states have a non-consensual P law in some form. The majority of states make, the dissemination of non-consensual P a criminal offense if the defendant with a specific intent is to harass them or intimidate them, or in some way humiliate them, either actual or inputted through reckless or negligence, that the depicted person had not consented to the disclosure. So that's what it says, generally speaking. And I'm gonna put this on. I'm gonna tag this. I'm gonna put what is it called? The link in the description. But this is from the Congressional Research Service, the legal sidebar. That's what it federally says. There's another fact sheet that I'm reading here from the Maneuver Center of Excellence, and it says, what is non-consensual P, and is it against the law? It says that it says revenge P, as is more commonly known, is a sharing of sexually graphic images without the consent of the depicted person. The different ways that a person may obtain graphic images or videos without another person's consent might be through deceit, such as hidden cameras, or an image being voluntarily shared. So that's like, I gave it to my boyfriend or my husband or my ex-boyfriend or ex-husband or baby daddy or whoever. But this says, regardless of how the image was obtained, both are equally wrong and against the law when transmitted to other persons. Just because you share an intimate photo or a video with a person, it does not mean that you have relinquished your right to privacy. It says, currently the state of Georgia statutorily prohibits the transmission of sexually explicit images or videos as an invasion of the depicted person's privacy and as harassment. Georgia law defines harassment as a conduct directed at a depicted person that is intended to cause substantial emotional harm to them, and anyone that knows the content of the certain image without their consent of the depicted person transmits it is in violation of the individual's protected privacy and is harassing them in a way that is against the law. So the reason I wanted to be clear in terms of reading that, and each state is different, I just wanted to go have a little snippet of what the federal law says and somewhat of what Georgia law says. And there's more that I'm going to read later about what Georgia law says it is. But I wanted to get you guys' opinion because, like I said, I've heard people even this morning saying, well, I don't really think that's considered that because, the penis, I don't know if we can say that, but anyways, the penis, the bodily, what do they call baby maker? I call it that. The baby maker, is it, so this is how it's explained. Well, they have her picture there, right? So on these alleged posters, and let me be clear. Everything on this channel on Chanel's Reality is for entertainment purposes only, as in my opinion and in the opinion of my people in the chat and or on the panel. So people have been saying, well, I don't really know. And this is the thing. You got to be real clear when you're talking about a criminal act. Kenya is saying, I didn't do that. I would never have done that, blah, blah, blah. Just because something is not your ignorance of the law is not an excuse, is what I've heard, right? That's number one. Number two, I do think Kenya knew what she was doing. But back to the depicted person. So this lady, Mrs. Eady, I think her first name is Brittany, is a new cast member. From what we've heard online, allegedly, Kenya has these big posters that she showed at her hair spa event on camera that depict this young lady, Mrs. Eady, in some sort of sexual manner. What I've heard is that she was somehow had her mouth open, like she was giving a BJ, and that there's some penis that someone has attached, kind of like Photoshopped in. Ooh, hold on one second, guys. So what I've heard be discussed a lot is, well, she got that off of the internet. And this lady's, I feel like Kenya's ignorance of the law is going to stand behind this idea of, well, the picture was already out there. Because housewives love to do that. Well, it was already out there. I just bring it on the show so we can put it on the table and you can, dispel it and then we can move on. It doesn't matter who took the picture, when the picture was taken, or that it was already out there. And this is the thing, the way it's being explained in Kenya's statement to us is that this information was already out there. So she's not putting anything out there that's new. But from what I was reading, it doesn't sound like it matters if it was new and that other people have seen it before, right? It doesn't matter because you may have seen it, your ex-boyfriend may have seen it, your current boyfriend may have seen it, but that doesn't matter.
I agree. And that was my interpretation of it too.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, I agree. That was my interpretation of what I've read so far also, is the mere fact that she didn't have Britt's explicit consent. Correct. Is what makes it, regardless of where the image was gotten. And even if it was AI generated and that was some type of extremely large veiny peen put near her mouth with her pearls on and everything, it kind of, right. And then it had the ES behind it in the picture I saw, that it was like a picture of like a magazine, like her in an office or something in front of a magazine, like it said Forbes, maybe, I don't know. And she had on a very nice blouse. It wasn't sexy time blouse or anything, and it had a collar, and she had on a pearl necklace and pearl earrings, and the way she's facing isn't like ready to gobble. It was almost like posing for this, whatever this magazine was. And so I heard that one could be photoshopped. So, but like I said, even if it is a photoshopped image, that's still considered revenge, especially with that monologue. You heard the monologue, the slut shaming monologue she did, like she was William Shakespeare.
So I only heard a little bit of the audio yesterday. And it was basically like, it sounded like to me, her saying that this lady is a hoe and she's a cheap hoe. And that to me, again, that goes to the intent, right? So It's sort of like, you could say all day long, I didn't intend to hurt your feelings, but this is the thing. We don't know what happened prior, right? Mm-hmm. But we know, so something has to have happened that she didn't like, whatever that might have been. Kenya, at some point, decided this is what I'm going to use to get her back. So to me, like the law says, you're using this as a means to like a retribution,
humiliate, embarrass, harm.
Correct. And that's the intent. So that lets me know you knew
harass.
What was right. So it's not like you found this picture at her house and you just didn't know, you thought it was whatever. And then if what is being reported is true, you went and then you got some sort of penis or wherever it is, you got it from wherever, and you put it next to the lady's face. I don't think this is going to show up on Bravo, meaning I don't think they're going to show us the episode. And if they do, it's going to it'll be like how they did with Potomac and the fight. They didn't show it. They just kind of showed the audio. I think that's what's going to happen. But the thing is, her intent was there. Her intent was to embarrass. Her intent was to humiliate. And you just can't do that with this type of thing. You can say whatever you want. You can say all day long, she's a hoe. She's, I also think, and I said this on my other law, I think that because Kenya has gotten away with calling Marlo a escort for year after year after year and saying that she has what does she call it? A square reader. I think Kenya just right. I don't think she sees anything wrong with it. And like I said, I really think she's going to say, or whoever her people are, they're going to say, well, they're going to stand behind, well, we didn't know that it was, since it was already out there, we didn't know we couldn't reuse it. But Kenya's no dummy. But anyways, Mr. Aries Video, what do you think? You want to chime in and tell us what your opinion is of this law?
Well, I mean, I think ultimately it really boils down to, and I can't say I intimately understand the concepts behind the law as it stands, but if the general discussion topic is about whether this is valid revenge porn or not, I'm not confident a jury, if something presented in front of a jury would elect to say, yeah, this quantifies or qualifies as revenge porn.
You gotta be easy with your words. Say P.
Okay, revenge P. But I don't know if it would necessarily qualify in that regard. But you can certainly argue tastelessness, tact, the lack, in those specific areas. But I wouldn't necessarily personally say I would quantify it as revenge P myself.
Okay.
Well, I know, like for the Georgia specifically, in my research that I was doing on Google, which is where Kenya could have done it too before she decided to put this up, was it said that as recently as 2021, the laws were updated to include even more stuff because of the cyber aspect, right? So they broadened it. So I feel like because of the way that it's been broadened, a jury could potentially find and set precedent that this is in fact some type of revenge porn, because they could see it happening to their daughter, their sister, their mother.
I think I could see it, but I don't see a jury necessarily using that or using this particular case, because the potential of the precedents that you set. I mean, nowadays you could argue that at that point, anybody who makes a meme about anybody at that point could be alleged and convicted of revenge P. I decide, I want to make a funny meme about, Will Smith slapping Chris Rock, and I put a P or he slapped Chris so hard his P fell off, and all of a sudden now, oh, here we go, revenge porn. Now you're just trying to revenge P against Chris Rock and anything else. I think it would open up, I think, potentially a very slippery slope to have something like that come about.
I agree. Only if there's not a peen involved in the image. So like funny memes are awesome, but this wasn't funny. This was made to be a sexually explicit picture accompanied with a soliloquy that was harmful and disparaging to this woman's business and her professional reputation. So I feel like all of it combined would be a really strong case and is like more than a meme. And I'm not sure, like I keep hearing people say, oh, it wasn't so bad, it's no big deal. And I'm like, what planet are we on? Like, when wasn't it a big deal for a woman to have herself? I mean, if women are literally going to court suing avatars for taking advantage of them in like cyber areas and metaverses or whatever because they were assaulted or whatever. Like, the things are happening, the world is changing, and I'm not sure when it should ever be acceptable that a woman, particularly a Black woman, should have to endure uh, these types of images being put up and it somehow being passed off as an acceptable, oh, ha ha, funny moment. Like, I'm just kind of, I'm ripped on that one. I'm like, where are we? But then again, we're in America, and 45 is trying to be 47. So, I mean, I
So I
understand
think,
where we are, but I'm still like, how are are we really just going to go all in on it? Like,
and I
so we're
think
just going all
that
in,
is
like,
the point in and of itself. That there is the argument. There are people who look at that and say, "Oh, it wasn't that bad. I thought it was funny." And again, that's the whole thing. You stated earlier, "Oh, it's one thing if a meme is meant to be funny." I gave the example earlier with Chris Rock and Will Smith. I'm sure if you ask Chris Rock or anybody in his family, I present a meme like that, I'm sure they wouldn't necessarily find it funny. And could you make an argument that it's harmful to his career? It had some negative impact. And now all of a sudden, am I liable for that? Because I put in a picture of something that resembled his P shrinking up or falling off. And now he's no longer having a P, he has a V and all these other things. And now at that point, I'm sure there are a ton of people who will look at that and think that was so hilarious and the funniest thing in the world. But with something like that, the Kenya Moore situation, if that went to court and got a conviction with something like that now being set as precedents, I think, again, it's a slippery slope. And now you have this, this potential fear of anybody posting anything because of the how it can be interpreted in the respective eye of the respective beholder.
Well, let me say this so I can just add a little bit of context in terms of what the law says. And that's part of the reason, like I said, that I wanted to come on here is because of a lot of people saying from their perspective, this is what they don't think it is and how the bar can kind of move up and down based on what someone's level of offense is. So it says here, it is a crime under Georgia law to post explicit images and videos of someone online without their consent for the purposes to harass them. So we know, that was this purpose. She was intentionally in front of a group of people and the lady, from my understanding, trying to harass her. That's problem one. Problem two is this: if the offender posts the material on a website, message board, or file sharing site that is promoting itself as an adult. Okay, that's something different. This is all considered a felony. And then it says a person convicted of felony revenge P could be sentenced to up to 5 years imprisonment and or a maximum of $100,000 fine or both. It says the same sentence is applicable to a second misdemeanor. So I think the waters get murky for a few reasons. So like how you use the Chris Rock example, it's a little bit different. It is still offensive and it is against the law to put your hands on someone physically or whatever the case may be. And I'm sure it was meant out of anger and, he wanted to embarrass him and, whatever else. I think this is cleared up because of not only the intent, but it was without this lady's permission. So she did something allegedly within the privacy of her own home or wherever she was, where Kenya got either the video, the photos, whatever it is that she, obtained. She did this privately, is my understanding. If someone then gives you permission to use their private images, videos, and whatever else, then that's one thing. If they give you permission to do it, right? And typically, if I'm gonna give you permission, I'm gonna ask for your permission, I'm gonna have you sign something that says you gave my consent. This is another reason that to me is problematic. We know this lady didn't give her consent. We know that, so it's like, that's where, to me, the context comes in. The law says you have to have this person's express consent. You don't. The fact that you don't makes it a crime. And really, this is only a crime because it goes into the law from 1996, Violence Against Women Act, that basically says you're not allowed to hit your spouse or whatever the case may be. But also in detail with the revenge P, they added that Because what spouses would do, baby daddies, whomever, is they would have these images or videos, and then they would share it with whoever so that they could publicly embarrass these people, which is exactly, in my opinion, this is where my opinion comes in, what Kenya did. She shared it on purpose. You had your people go. And this is another thing that I feel like is on production. Production can come in and they can say, listen, this is the story. Or Kenya can come to them and say, look, this bitch pissed me off and I'm going to get her. And this is how I'm going to get her. No different than she did with Cookie Lady, with Tanya that I was telling you about earlier. And so production knew this was going to happen. Because where did you get these big 18 by 24, whatever the size was, posters? And then you present this here. And for all of these people, because my understanding is it wasn't just regular people like in her salon or her spa, you invited bloggers. That's my understanding, allegedly. So you wanted this information to go out there. It's one thing to say, we had this happen at Portia's house at a cookout. Even that is horrific, in my opinion. But when you are inviting even people that these people don't know to just go and lay this lamb out to be roasted, it's beyond. And the bigger problem that I even have with Kenya right now is because apparently she went on her IG and was like, oh, I'm going to come on here allegedly and basically spill the tea and give my perspective. And she really didn't do that from what I listened to, the snippet that I heard. But my biggest problem is, and I know she's probably doing this for legal reasons, but you haven't apologized. You haven't said, you know what, that was a terrible, terrible decision that I made. I should have never done that. You've denied it. That's number one. And I could understand her denying it by saying because of her ignorance, right? Not because she doesn't know it's wrong, but maybe she didn't think it was legally wrong. So I could understand initially saying, you know what, I'm not going to say anything because I don't think I was wrong. And I'm going to teach her to mess with me or not mess with me or whatever. Now it's I don't know when exactly this was shot. I don't know if you're familiar when exactly they filmed this or not. But if this was shot weeks ago or a month ago, but I think somebody said they're only 3 weeks into shooting or something like that. And so if you've had this information for 2 weeks and now it's news this past week, then why haven't you apologized? Why haven't you said, you know what? I didn't intend, but I guess maybe it's because legally if she does that, then she's locking herself into wrongdoing. But I don't see how she's not wrong. So what do you think about the suspension? Because now it's being reported actually as fact that she actually was suspended indefinitely. What do you think about that? And people are confused about what indefinitely means. So what do you guys think?
Well, I first want to say, what's our other panelist name?
Arius video. Oh, go ahead.
You
Aries?
can refer to me as Arius.
Arius? I like your POV, bro. I like it. And yeah, I was chewing on what you just said, and I was like, yeah, that is. I mean, I don't really like treading on people's rights, so to speak, but I feel like your perspective did lend a very good rounding to what I was thinking already. So I appreciate that. But as far as the suspension thing, I don't know. I feel like she needs to continue to be suspended indefinitely. But I don't feel like all the women should have to suffer because of her. That I don't appreciate. It's like, and that is kind of interesting that they would choose to do this way. On the reboot of Real Housewives of New York, for instance, they had a newbie whose husband used a hard N-word in talking to the black girl
Really?
on the thing. And it was like their second or third week of filming. And they simply fired them and recast the thing and kept it rolling. You know what I mean? And let everybody from that season make their money. So it's interesting that the decision would be to stop Drew's bag, because I mean, and thinking about it from a perspective of budgeting, it almost seems like they could just go get some new heads, keep their budget in money, and keep them rolling so these other ladies' lives aren't all held up because of Kenya's bad decisions and Portia's also legal stuff, right? So those two ladies, just let them go. Keep on trying to film, find some new ladies, bring back another person. Like, I feel like everything in the whole Bravo sphere, if they really want to just clear things up, just bring Nene back, do the right thing, have a conversation with the lady, have a
Okay.
conversation with her, do the right thing, and everything in the Bravo world will clear up. This implosion that we're seeing would like literally stop in midair if they just did the right thing by this woman. But yeah, the suspension holds. It couldn't have came fast enough, but this whole punishing everybody on cast, the production people aren't working now. Like, there are a lot of lives that
Oh,
are
I
being
thought they were
affected.
still shooting though. They're not shooting at all. I thought she just couldn't shoot with them.
From what I heard, they were on like hiatus.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, I don't
I didn't
know.
know that.
We'll have to wait and see who goes live from where to see if we can catch them filming. But from what I heard, the cameras were like, until this thing is over, they're not filming, allegedly.
Mm.
Hmm. But yeah, I don't think it's too harsh and or too soon. I mean, and then for her to admit, and I'm did she or did she not imply on Real Housewives of Atlanta that she was divorced from Mark finally? Or has the story continued to be she's divorcing and she only told the magazine Glam in 2023 that her divorce was finalized? So in her live that she did the other day, she can't keep her
Hmm.
lies together. And she's like, I'm not even divorced yet.
Oh, she said that?
Yeah.
Wow. Because I was actually thinking that this morning when I woke up. I was like, because I was thinking about how he embarrassed her. I was using that as an example of like, why, if your husband came on TV and literally humiliated you for what, 18 or 20 episodes, I don't remember how many episodes it was. Why, if you were so distraught, would you then do something? You know what I'm saying? Like, why are you still
Yeah.
doing this, Mark? But I didn't know that she said that because I'm like, this is the longest, her and Bethany, the longest divorces I ever had. I'm like, how y'all divorced longer than y'all actual marriage? But anyway.
She answered that question actually in that little live that she said nothing in, except for it kind of sounded like she was saying bye to the people to me. It kind of sounded like farewell or then I'll see you later night. Like she was
Wow.
saying, I'll see you in the meantime. But then she pulled a NECA and was like, oh, don't worry. You'll see me around. You'll see me around. Okay, NECA. Yeah, we'll
Ooh,
see you on
Nessa.
Instagram.
Oh, Nessa from Potomac?
Yeah, remember NECA was like, oh, she tried to play coy those times that she did those follow-up interviews.
Oh, okay.
Like she wouldn't just
Yeah.
answer if she was fired or not. Remember? She was like, oh, you
Mhm.
don't have to worry. You'll see me. You'll see me.
Mhm. But see,
Hmm.
that's what I found interesting with her live because she was just kind of like, um, she said, "I'm not going anywhere." Something to that effect. I heard her say. I was like, I think that that's very interesting because if as long as you're employed by someone else, that rings true. It rings false to me because you're not in charge, they are. And it doesn't matter whether or not they want you fired or if they legally can fire you or whatever the case may be. It's not guaranteed unless you're an entrepreneur and you work for yourself that you can simply say. And they could say that they could have said in a meeting, "Hey, Kenya, your job is fine. We're just going to do this investigation." They could have said, "We've done our investigation, but we're going to just try to quell the bloggers and everybody online and whatever else. And we're just going to say we're investigating it," which also rings false because when has Bravo investigated anything? They didn't investigate what happened to, I was saying this yesterday, to Garcelle's son, who was a 14-year-old boy who
Right.
was being um, cyberbullied. They said something about,
Hmm.
if it wasn't for your white daddy, then, you'd have a knee on your neck, implying that they would have unalived him if his
Right.
daddy wasn't. They didn't investigate that. They didn't investigate what Giselle said when she straight up lied and said Chris made her go into a hotel room. I didn't see an investigation. There's all kinds of things that Bravo hasn't investigated. And so therefore it rings false to me that there's some sort of investigation that's going to happen. I'm like, if y'all believe that, look, I got a whole island to tell you in the middle of Texas. It's just not going to happen in that way, I feel. I do think that to me, if what because we all are speculating. So if what we're speculating is doesn't have the right context and this is not really what actually happened, and then they're going to explain to us what really happened, then I'm
Hmm.
fine with that. I do think that everybody has the right to, have their say of whatever they're being accused of or whatever the case may be. But if it is as what it seems, I think she should have been fired immediately. There should be no not no exceptions. What do they call it? Zero tolerance or
Zero
something like that.
tolerance.
Because
Yup.
where do you move the line? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
where do you move the line? And this is the thing. The reason I don't believe that Kenya didn't do it is because I think Kenya would have immediately said, I had nothing to do with that. Now, she did deny it, quote unquote, but she would have immediately come out and said, this is actually what I did. Unless
Mhm.
Bravo put her on some sort of gag order, because and then I feel like Kenya would have been litigious, and she would have been, or litigious rather, he would have immediately, I feel like, said, no, I'm going to go for her jugular. Really, I am, because
Mhm.
now again, for my job and my this, that, and the third. That's why it doesn't ring true for me that you didn't know, or that isn't what you did, because I feel like you would have so loudly said, this is egregious. I would never do this. I have a daughter, blah, 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 blah. I'm for, because I feel like what she said on her podcast or whatever, on her Instagram was,
Mhm.
oh, this is about Black women's business. I'm like, here we go with changing the narrative. This is not about that, Kenya,
Right.
Mrs. Moore. This is actually about your behavior, your poor decisions, poor choices. Stop trying to change the subject. I hate it when people do that. And people that aren't very cerebral,
Mhm.
in my opinion, or they're just stands for her, they'll take that and run with it.
Right.
Or they'll do the whataboutism. Well, what about on da 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 da? Somebody else did this.
What about isms?
Stop
Yes.
talking about whatever. We're not talking about that. Judge, we need you to tell the we need you to
Redirect the
stay on
witness,
task and
please.
answer the questions. We're not talking about whatever happened 2 weeks ago or 2 weeks ago. We're talking about Kenya Moore hair care. Okay, stop it. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Miss Darius, if you had something else that you wanted to say about that, about the Kenya Moore,
No, no,
being
I'm right now. No, I don't have anything I say additional to add at this point.
okay. Well, that's all I really had, guys. Do you guys want to elaborate? I just want to ask this one last question about the term indefinitely, because I think people are confusing it, and they think, I know I used to think that it meant you're fired permanently, but it sounds
Mhm.
like Kenya is just on a like a paid, or maybe it's an unpaid. What is it called? Leave. That's what
Right.
it sounds like. And do you think they'll fire her because of this? If it's accurate, if it's what I think it is, do you think, or what Georgia law says it is, do you think she'll get terminated?
I'd like to hear what he has to say.
Oh,
So
can
honestly,
you
I
hear?
feel like, yeah, I can hear. I think the indefinite. It's honestly, I think it's just more of a cop out of Bravo. I mean, it's an easy method for them to not take a side and not take a definite stance. Just this indefinite. All that means is that, okay, if the smoke clears on this and there's profit for us, we'll go ahead and bring her back. If the smoke doesn't clear, then at least we still got our hands clean, and we can just let her go and not bring her back. And thus, we never said one way or the other. We can kind of sit back and just wait. I think it also potentially helps alleviate specific legal responsibility on them if they just outright fire her or something like that, or relieve her of her contract if she's under contract and just outright fire her. Then it potentially puts the ire on them. If all of this comes back, there was something happened to where absolutely, yep, Kendra had nothing to do with this. 100%. Now she has potential legal recourse back against Bravo because she was outright fired. Whereas, well, we didn't fire, we just indefinitely while we investigated. So that limits their liability, I think, there. So it's just an easy cop out for Bravo to not take a stance at all, is essentially what the indefinite suspension is coming from Bravo.
Mm.
Yeah, I totally agree that it's probably in their favor based off of whatever contract there is that would stipulate she's paid per episode and may have some type of terminations like package or something. Um even though like here in California, everything's at will, but if you have a contract, it's a contract, and that foregoes the at will employment. You go by what's on the court of the paper. And so I think that it's a legal move. It's to protect them also. And it's better than just firing her outright. In the meantime, if they do decide to start filming again, because the looky-loos will be, instead of being so irate, we might like hate watch or something, trying to see how the other people are handling it or something. You know what I mean? For anybody who might not have wanted to watch based off of this happening. So yeah, it's a loud and clear, neutral, protect my ass. We're corporate. You're on your own. No money for you, lady. Type of solution.
I agree. I actually agree with both of you guys. I think what you're saying is true. It is we're going to wait and see, because I do think Bravo will take the temperature of the audience. I do think that they do that. And then when it becomes something that goes beyond the audience, right? So like what I was giving you examples of with Garcelle's son, where now all kinds of people that don't even watch Housewives, when it becomes CNN news, you know, that type of thing, where it's like, okay, this is beyond us, then, you know, it's beyond. I do think they will try to quell the audience, you know, as much as they can. But I also think Bravo loves to act like they don't know what happened. It's like they almost be like, Portia, like, did you know,
They're
they
like,
like
you
to do
mean
that.
so those cameras record while we could watch it back?
And the craziness of it is that everyone has a camera. Stop it. Like, what do you mean you don't know? Like, people are filming you. And that's the other thing, too, that I find very interesting is that ever since that one season where that one lady, the one that was like, I'm that bitch, or whatever she said, that girl, remember her?
Yvonnya.
Yeah. Right. So remember she recorded and everybody thought that was so low and how dare you do that? Or whatever. Kenya was one of the main ones. That is so snake-like, and you know, whatever. Tell me, listen, are you the snake or the snake? But anyways, I think now it's very much like this. You don't know who's recording you. And I'll share one little story. I remember when I was 19 years old, I was standing in a Sprint store, and we don't even have Sprint anymore. So there's that. That's how old I am. And I remember I was there, huh?
I was laughing.
Yeah, so I remember I was there to probably get a phone or maybe pay a phone bill. But this guy, this white guy, I'll never forget him. He was standing there and he was like talking to someone else, but I was in earshot and he was saying, you know, they're gonna be putting cameras on phones. And my little 19-year-old don't know nothing about nothing, but I think I'm smarter than everybody. I'm like, that's so stupid. This is me in my mind. That's so dumb. Who's gonna want to have a camera on the phone? I should have been like, let me go, just like I should have invested in Google. Let me go and put some money in some stock in this. So it's like I say that to say you have to talk and act as if you're always being watched and recorded. That's just what it is. And so the fact that you brought these people here, to me, that was deadly for her. I don't know that they're gonna fire her because I think that I think if the lady doesn't press on it, then Kenya could maybe come back.
I
That's what
heard
I think.
Michelle H. Alien, the lady who broke all the story in the first place, live from that night from the place. She was saying in her latest thing that they had court action from Britt about the whole situation, and she was pulling a Caroline Manzo talking about you not airing that.
Look, hold on, sidebar. Simon needs his own peach because Simon is on the internet talking about Portia can't even, he said they can't even, she cannot film in his Rolls Royce. And whatever information, whatever they filmed already, he said, y'all can't use it. I'm like, whoa, that man is high level petty. He graduated with a PhD for petty. And you know what else? I can't believe for a second that marriage, that they were happy, because how do you go from we so happy and Portugal body is coming back and listen, Simon should not is now the pettiest person I'm like, how do you go from being so in love to you return just like as a dog returns to its own vomit? I was like, oh Jesus, and you got to get out the house and you can't film in my Rolls Royce. it's itchy over there. I'm like,
Mm,
what filming do they have left? But I did want to say
mm.
that under the Georgia law, it says it is considered, just for people for thought, that it is against the law as well, but it's only against the law in 7 states in our nation. That if you threaten to send images of an individual that is depicted in a sexual compromising way, it's also a crime.
Yep.
It's kind of like black, I guess. But this didn't happen until July of 2021. So literally almost a year ago. No, I'm thinking 2021. I'm thinking that's last year. So, anyways, guys, thank you so much. I don't know if y'all have any last thoughts or anything like that. If not, I'm going to go ahead and close out so I can enjoy the rest of this beautiful Saturday. But if y'all have any last thoughts, y'all can definitely share, and then we'll be there.
Well, I just want to say smash all Chanel's buttons, ring her bell so you can get notified when she uploads videos and whatnot. And
Thank you so
thanks
much.
for having
And
me
Larger
up.
Courage has a channel. She's a veteran in this game. So I would love to say thank you so much for joining me. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, no, I appreciate you for even thinking to join me to this conversation because I like to talk, girl. So thank you so much.
You
And it was
do.
a pleasure to have met you, your other panelists too. That was a good conversation. So thanks again for having me, and happy Juneteenth, Black History, Black
Thank
Independence.
you, ma'am.
Yes.
Look, now I
Okay.
gotta go to
Enjoy your
now I
Saturday.
gotta go to the what is it? What I said I want you to bury me at the Chanel, at the Dior, and Hobby Lobby. Yeah, I want to go. Listen, I can't be trusted in Hobby Lobby. I can't. But
I'll
anyway,
talk to
thank
you
you,
later.
love. Thank you
Peace.
so much, Larger Courage. Y'all have a good one. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.